upfront information. The title of this session is SEO Tips for 2012. This is the first of a three-part series, and you'll see the other two parts rolled out on our training page, and you'll get some information in your back office of your website, news about the next upcoming sessions. But this session is not designed to be the book on SEO. It's not designed to be really even an introduction. We do have a video link at the end of this presentation where, along with Joe Leiniger, Dennis has previously done a session that was a general introduction to SEO. And so this is to cover some tips, and we've broken it out in 3 different sections. And we'll get started in just a second, but stay tuned at the end for the video link where you'll be able to watch the introductory session. So at this point, let me turn it over to Dennis for SEO tips for 2012.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Mark, for getting us all set up here and everything. So coming into the new year, there's been some changes going on, and it's good to stay abreast of all the changes that are happening within the search engines, of course. And you know, the search engine and the search landscape is definitely evolving all the time. So I want to get into some of the things to you guys can sort of focus on towards your marketing goals to help with your SEO efforts. So just starting right off the bat, I want to get into content. Now, content is always important. You know, you've heard for years that content is king. But I want to make sure that we understand that content is, hold on one sec here. Content is important, especially now, because Google had a recent update, and it was called the Panda update. Now, what this update did is it really focused in on the content and sort of weeding out these low-quality content sites, and they're looking for much higher quality content to serve up in their search results. Okay, so while content has always been important in the past, it's even more important now. Just this past January, Google actually did another revision of this Panda update to sort of help refresh their algorithm on this Panda update even more so. So that's why you'll see up there Google's Panda update. Again, what they're looking for is high quality content. They're cracking down on content farms and link farms. And they're going to focus on quality and unique content. They also quality sites that have clout and authority. And I'll kind of talk about that in a little bit of how to get clout and authority. Okay. Some of you guys that I talk with on the phone, you may hear me tell you, I want to make your site the authoritative site for your area. Okay. And that's one thing that's important as well is when we start talking about geo-targeting. Okay. So, just so we understand, content's always been important, but let's just reiterate, it's even more important now. So good content is pivotal. Now, if you look on the left-hand side here, you'll see a website, and you see a bunch of pictures. Not a whole lot of real content there. You'll see at the top, I've got an arrow pointing to some ads. In the middle, I've got more ads. And then down towards the fold there, I've got even more ads, okay? There's not a lot of good content here, especially not above the fold. Above the fold is basically when you first come to a website, what do you see on the screen? And that's always been important. What's above the fold? That brings to a quick little interesting side note. Recently, Google actually made a slight tweak to sort of recognize what is above the fold, and content had better be above the fold. And they've actually made a slight tweak, like I said, in their algorithm to sort of recognize that and compensate for that. So it's important to have good content above the fold even. Now, if you look to the right, the image on the right, you can see that once you get into this website, there is content immediately, okay? And it is unique content that's been written specifically for French Quarter real estate. There's a lot of good information there. It's quality content, okay? So you can see the differences just visually, what's good content and what's bad content. Okay. Now, I want to get into sort of what makes some good content. Be original, informative, give the user what they want. Okay, right for you, the users, not just for SEO. Okay, all of these things are important for you to understand. Okay, original, informative. That be aware of that. Don't just go out and copy someone else's website.
Dennis, I have a question that comes up in the webinars that I do on custom content. Excuse me. And when you say in the third bullet there, right for users, not for SEO, I know some agents are a little concerned that SEO involves, a certain amount of tricks and behind the scenes knowledge. Can you unpack written for, right for users, not for SEO, just a little bit more?
Oh, definitely. So, because most of you out there are not SEO experts, and if you're going to write this on your own, it definitely makes sense from that standpoint, just to write for your users. Okay. For those of you that know some SEO, it's important that when you're writing for SEO, yes, we pay attention to which search phrases are we targeting per page. Where do we place those search phrases on the page? That's important for SEO. It's also important to understand if we have a target search phrase, what other related words can we use on the page to help support our target search phrase? Okay, so all of this is important, but you don't want to cram these words in such a way that if you read the content out loud, it just doesn't read well. Okay, the engines will actually pick up on that. Not only the engines based on their algorithms, but the human span team, if they come across your site, they would actually ding you for that as well. So just write for your users. You want it to flow nice, give them good quality original content, and you're going to be okay.
Thanks, Dennis.
So let's go on here. As I say, write for the users, but keep the SEO in mind. Okay, and I sort of touched on this a little bit. Keyword research is important. As you're writing out your content, you want to know what it is that you're targeting for that page. Are you targeting homes for sale in Boca Raton, Florida? Are you targeting short sales in Boca Raton, Florida? So there's many things you can be targeting. So you want to do your keyword research and understand which search phrase or a couple of search phrases you really want to target on each page. You don't want to try to stuff everything onto one page and dilute that page's importance. Your title tag, okay? Your title tag is very important. So as you're writing these pages, pay attention to what you're putting in your title tag. Your target search phrase should always be in your title tag. If you see on the image here, I've got an arrow pointing. This is where your title tag will show up. It's at the top of the browser window there. That tells the search engine when they visit that page, it's just that. It's the title. It's like going into the library and looking in the card catalog for specific titles. Okay, it's very important. This particular one here is New Orleans real estate. So you better believe that this page is going to have plenty of information about New Orleans real estate. Your meta tags are also important, okay? That's your meta description. Your meta keywords, yes, those are less important, but still add 4, 5, 6 keywords in there, okay? Things like this you just want to pay attention to. Use your target search phrase in each of these, okay? And again, these are just some of the tips that we're going to go over. There's the much more in-depth webinar that you'll find the link at the end to help kind of go into this more, okay? Keyword density. Now, again, I don't want to stress this too much, but if we look at this image here, Crestwell, Oregon real estate, that's a target search phrase. You need to at least make sure that target search phrase is in your content somewhere. And here you can see I've got it in a header up there in red. I've got it in my first paragraph. I've got lower on the page in another paragraph. I've also got it over to the right near a little call to action box, basically, Crestwell, Oregon real estate. Okay, so again, your search phrase, use it, don't overuse it. Okay, as a rule of thumb, I like to sort of follow, if I've got a page full of content, I like to add it in there 4 times if I can make it read well. If I'm doing a blog post, because they're generally shorter, I like to, just put it in there two or 3 times, depending on the length of the blog post. But don't overstress it. Just be aware, okay? And this all kind of helps understand how content is good and what is good content. Now, as you're writing out your content pages and you add pictures, think about your alt tag. Now, here's the code. And some of this, may be sort of foreign to some of you, and that's fine. I just want to offer up an idea of what it is. If you look at this code here, it's saying use this image. Okay, it's mysite.com image prettypicture.jpg. But the name that I want to show people on this image is the alt text. Okay, it's called Pretty Picture in Creswell, Oregon, whatever you want to name it. Okay, because my target search phrase was Creswell, Oregon. That's part of my search phrase. I want to make sure that I have Creswell, Oregon in there, okay? You can get even more specific with your alt text if you want, but this is a good place to use it. Related keywords, okay? Related words. Now, remember earlier I said the engines will actually look to see what words are supporting your target phrase. Now, here's a little trick, okay? If you go to Google and you put a tilde, that's the little squiggly line, usually it's up in the upper left corner of your keyboard somewhere, and you put in a search phrase. So here I've got tilde, homes for sale, and I do a search. Now, what's returned here are a bunch of search results, but if you notice, there's certain words that are in bold there. Google actually bolds these words. Now, my search was homes for sale. So you can see that it's bolding homes for sale, houses, sale, home, real estate. If you look a little bit further down on the page, you can see more real estate, houses for sale, properties. Okay, so Google's sort of giving you an idea of what they consider to be related words to the phrase homes for sale. So take those related words and see if you can't weave those into the content as you're writing. Okay, so there's a little trick there for you. When you're writing your content, it's good and well if you can get people to your page, but give them a call to action. Okay, one of the ones that we commonly use here is a slideshow. Flips the images so people can see. One, that kind of draws the user's eye there. They can click on the images for more information through their IDX broker. But we also give them price links down below that just breaks it out right there. Are you looking for homes under $225,000? Maybe you're looking for homes from $325,000 to $400,000. Well, we've already broken out these homes in these price ranges for this specific community of Creswell, Oregon. So the user can say, gee, I want to check out some of these homes. And they can go to your IDX broker pages right there. So offer a call to action. Give the user something to do.
Thanks, Dennis. Well, let's head into section 2, which has to do with blogging. Now, we do specialty webinars on both how to create custom pages and also how to create blog posts. And many times people will ask the question, what's the SEO value of one against the other? So we'll explain that in this section and how and why blogging can work for you.
Yeah, so as we get into blogging, blogging is one of the things that I want to get everybody to focus on a little more for this upcoming year, because it really is important. Now, a lot of times we hear, well, what's the difference between a blog post and a page, a community page or a content field page? Well, if you look on the screen, I've got some differences there. On the left is a blog post. On the right is a community page. Okay, you can notice that, well, first of all, the page is generally filled with more content, okay, than what the blog post is. The blog post is supposed to be short, informative, give them, something. You're going to write this often, okay? If you look at the bottom of the blog post on the left, you can see that there's a spot there for comments. So the blog post is more interactive. Okay, people can actually leave comments and you can reply to their comments. The page is not as interactive. It's just a page. Okay, users expect to come to a blog and see it updated fairly regularly. They don't necessarily expect to come to a page and see new stuff on there every day or every week. Okay? Now, one thing that I also want to say is when you write a blog post, essentially that actually does become a web page, but it's still in the blog style format. So writing posts creates more pages for your website as well. Okay, but for this particular session, let's just look at blog post versus what a content page is, a community page is, and there's some differences there. Now, the SEO value for sure in blogging is the engines are really taking a look at freshness of content. And blogging is a great way to get quick and easy quality content fresher up in the engines. And the engines take notice for how often your website adds new content, how often is that content updated. So even if you have pages, every 6 months, maybe revisit that page and see, can I update this? Is there something in there I can make better? The engines will recognize that. They will basically take a snapshot of your current web page. That every time they revisit it, they will determine, is this the same or is it different? Now, I'm not saying you need to go in every day and update your community pages, but maybe, every 6 months, just go in there and say, is there something new I can add? Is there something new in my community of value that I can add to this page? The engines will take notice. So I can't stress how the engines do love new content. That's why I always want to create new content for our users. Create blog posts, and I encourage you guys to do the same. Now, some other blogging tips here. Geo-target your blog posts. Okay, so you serve a local area, become the authority for your area. Okay, some of the things that I like to blog about are community events. Now, I hear people say, well, community events, now that's not directly real estate related. You're correct, it's not. But if you do a nice mix of real estate related and community event related blog posts, you're going to find a good mix there that, one, it shows the engine. You know what? There's a lot of things going on here about Boca Raton, Florida. So that's a pretty good website for Boca Raton, Florida. You know what else? There's also a lot of really good real estate content coming through over here. So when somebody goes to the engine and maybe they type in homes for sale in Boca Raton, Florida, you're the authoritative site for Boca Raton and real estate. So you're sort of mixing the two together. I like to, if I'm blogging, once a week, I may do, 1 or 2 community events, and then the other 2 will be, real estate related. Okay. Your titles of your blog posts are important. The reason why they're important is because those titles actually become the title tag. If you remember earlier, I showed you a title tag of a web page. Your titles in your blog posts actually become that title tag for your blog. So here's a quick look at some of the good titles here. Now, if you notice, winterizing your home, okay, that's okay. But if you're going to geo-target, because maybe you're in Crestwell, Oregon, winterizing your Crestwell, Oregon home, that would be a better title for your blog post. Another one, home buying tips. Okay, well, I get that it's home buying tips, but tips for buying a home in Crestwell, Oregon would be a much better title. Okay, so think about how you can write creative titles and still weave in your search phrase and make it geo-targeted. So let's go on here now. Some more blogging tips. Sprinkle your search phrase throughout your post. Now, this is a lot like I mentioned earlier about sprinkling your search phrase on your page. You want to do the same thing in your blog post. Okay. The example here: North Myrtle Beach condos for sale. Now you can see that Jerry, this is a client of ours, Jerry's blog post. He has on there North Myrtle Beach condos for sale throughout his blog post. Okay, that's important. You want to reiterate your search phrase and add a few other supporting phrases as well. Okay, again, include an image with alt text. Okay, now we talked about alt text before. you want to do the same thing in your blog post. If you can see towards the bottom of Jerry's blog post there, I cut off his condo picture, but he does have a picture there of some North Myrtle Beach condos, and his alt text was just that, North Myrtle Beach condos for sale. Okay. Add a call to action. Now, again, I've sort of cut this out of Jerry's post to fit it on the page, but he does have a section in there where he's leading his blog post users back to his North Myrtle Beach condos for sale page from his IDX. Okay, so he's sending them directly to see the listings for North Myrtle Beach condos for sale. When you're writing your blog post, think about how you can link back to other pages of your website. Okay, so this does a couple of things. It gives you some good cross-linking. Okay, it also gives the user another, almost a call to action. North Myrtle Beach condos for sale. Okay, so Jerry's probably linking back to his IDX page, like I mentioned. But he also may be linking back to a North Myrtle Beach community page where the user can learn more about the community of North Myrtle Beach. And so let's see here. Link to external websites. Okay, there's some value here simply because linking out is natural. Okay, it's natural to link away from your site, and the engines will look at what's natural, and they realize if you have every single web page of your site, none of it links out. That's not natural. So if it makes sense, if you're talking about North Myrtle Beach condos for sale, and somehow in this blog post you talk about a specific park in the area, and it's a real famous park, and it has a website, link to that park. That's just an example, but I think you get the
we have a question here that's relevant to the topic here, and it's, do you recommend allowing commenters to make comments on your posts? And what's the importance of it if you do?
Yeah, that is a good question. Yes, I recommend the commenters making comments, because what that does, one, that gives your users something to do. They're interacting with your site, and that'll keep them coming back. Another reason why is because as they're commenting, and if it's definitely relevant to your blog post, they're really just adding more quality content for you on your blog page. Okay, on this page for North Myrtle Beach condos, if somebody's talking about how great some of these North Myrtle Beach condos are, they're just adding relevant content to your page for you. Okay, and the engines will recognize that. Now, you want to take the time to go through and get rid of the spam contents, because blogging tends to attract spam. Okay, it's just part of the game. Get rid of it. Or another thing you can do is allow comments, but don't actually allow them to post to your blog until you approve them. Okay, and then what you would do is maybe every couple of days, just look through your blog, look through your comments, and approve the ones that are legit. Okay. Just one thing here. I see a question real quick. It says, "What is a meta tag?" Okay, so again, our other webinar that's much more detailed will help explain that. But a meta tag basically is part of the HTML code that just gives the search engines a little bit more information about each page. Okay, so just that's a quick, what is a meta tag? That's a quick. So I just want to put that out there.
One other comment about comments and blogging. As you build skill as a blog writer, you're more likely to get comments down the road as your posts are a little bit bolder, maybe a bit more colorful. If it's a simple announcement about a community event, I don't think you're likely to attract much in the way of comments. Blogging is a skill like any other, and writing skill in particular. And I think over time, as you find your own voice in blogging, particularly if you go to some other sites and post there, and you make comments, you may find people coming back to your site to make a comment. So one way to generate those is to be a participant elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a really good point. As you're making these blog posts, think about different topics that may generate some discussion. Okay, I'm not saying every blog post has to generate a ton of discussion, but that is some of the things to kind of mix in there. I see somebody's asking what other webinar. As we mentioned at the beginning, we're going to have a link to a previous webinar that we did that really goes in depth of SEO, goes in a lot more in depth than just these tips here. But it's much more SEO, a much more SEO friendly webinar. Okay, so moving on. So one thing that's really important about blogging, as it is with most of your search marketing efforts out there, be consistent. Okay, you don't want to just blog once a month or once every 6 weeks. Oh, I better jump on there and blog. Okay, be consistent. Put it on your calendar and follow. Okay, as you get, Mark mentioned, as you become more proficient in blogging and you find your voice, you're going to find that it's a lot easier to sit down and in 20 minutes bang out a blog post, because you are already going to be talking about things on a daily basis with your clients that you can blog about. Somebody may come and ask you about radon, and you're going to respond to them via email, or maybe you're talking to them on the phone. And you know what? You can go, you know what? That right there would make a good blog post. I can just sit down and bang out a blog post in 20 minutes now about radon. So think about it in that sense as well, okay? Some people really make this too hard, where they figure, I got to sit down and come up with an idea and a topic. Again, just think of your daily activities. Think of, man, maybe a client had a great story, or maybe it's a great success story of buying a house that you just didn't think they may not get into. And by golly, they got into that house. Well, that's a blog about it. That's fun. It's stuff that people are want to read, want to see. Hold on, Mark, you got to...
Yeah, quick, for those of you who may not be able to stay to the end, I'm looking at a question here, and there may be other people in this category. If you can't stay till the very end, I'll be emailing out some information as a follow-up to everybody who participated today. And so the link to the longer SEO introduction webinar that we mentioned will be in that communication.
Perfect. Okay. So those are some really good tips there about blogging, okay? Far too often I find blogs that the titles are very generic. The blog posts become generic themselves. Sometimes it feels as though people are blogging just for the sake of blogging. Blog with a purpose, okay?
Now, many times in our content webinar on how to blog, one of the things that I mentioned in there is that blogging is a perfect first step into social media. And it's something that you can kind of master and find your voice, as we've talked about. Let's go on now and talk about social media itself and how that can help your SEO efforts.
Yeah, so blogging in itself is a form of social media. But when we talk about social media nowadays, we really talk about things like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus now. All of these things are really, really important to your SEO. And people go, gee, how is that important to my SEO? Well, let me just show you something here. Here's a slide, okay? And this is actually taken from Google Plus. Now, I don't know if many of you are familiar with Google Plus out there, but when a topic becomes really, really popular, there will be a little button, and it's called ripples, okay? So what it does is it shows you, how did this particular piece of a post on Google Plus, how did it become really popular? Well, here are the ripples, and you can see that in the center there, Art put a post up there. Now, all of the users in Art's little network there either +1 or they reposted. Okay, +1 is Google's way of saying, I like this. Like Facebook has like. So what happened is all of Art's users either liked it or reposted it. And then you can see other circles out there that Art's users did the same thing. Okay, and you can see down towards the bottom right, there's a Google Plus user called Technique, and it's probably some kind of how-to Google Plus page or whatever. They had a lot of users that liked and that liked and also, reposted. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's just a slideshow to show you how important networking can be. Okay, and I think it's really important to show, even though this is from Google Plus, they all tend to sort of work in that same basic way. Okay. So it's also important, when you're blogging. Oh, let me get over it. There we go. So it's also important when you're blogging. Social media. It builds a solid reputation with your users. Again, you can see how many users you can attract here, okay? Because your users' users can then see, and so on and so on. Okay? So it builds a solid reputation and increased exposure. Again, this graphic shows a great increased exposure. Okay, brand awareness, getting your brand out there. I know for a lot of agents, your name is your brand. Get it out there. Okay. It builds author authority. Okay. One thing that I want to say there, builds author authority. Author authority is the search engine's way of looking at, if you're making tweets on Twitter or posting articles or comments on Facebook and everywhere else, that's good. But your author authority really starts to take shape when other users retweet, recomment, like, or share your items, okay? Because the engines look at it and say, boy, if all of these other people are resharing whatever, John Doe wrote, that must be a good article. And if it's happening over and over, well, John Doe then starts building author authority. And the engines look at how popular, the social media posts are. They've actually come out and said, the engines have actually come out and said that, yes, we actually take social media and author authority into account, just a little bit. We take it into account into our algorithms, okay? There's a lot of evidence that Google's actually using their Google Plus into their algorithm a little bit more than some of the others, of course, but why wouldn't they, right? So we're going to go down here. As the internet becomes more social and interactive, and I did a blog post a few days ago for the RPS, the Real Pro site, and I just want to reiterate some of that here because it's really important. So, it's becoming more and more important that you become social because the internet's becoming such more social. Okay. I put out some stats there that, did you realize Facebook has over 850 million users? Twitter has over 465 million users. LinkedIn has over 130 million, and Google now has over 100 million users. Okay, so that's a lot of users out there that you guys can tap into. Okay, social media outlets, they allow you to quickly get your word out, quickly get your content out from person to person to person, even if they're not in your immediate circle, even if they're not your immediate network. Okay, so doing so will help increase the importance of whatever you have to say in the search engine's eyes. Okay, now I want to say this isn't going to happen tomorrow. Okay, it's something that's built up over time. You want to show the engines over time that you're the authoritative site for your niche, for your area. Okay, some tips on social media include a photo of yourself. Okay, it's important that you include a photo of yourself because, well, it's social media, so be social. Studies actually show that if you include a photo of yourself, you're much more likely to get accepted, friend requests, or people can trust you a little bit better, so they're going to retweet or share what you have to say. This is true unless you're a big brand like Pepsi Cola or Best Buy. They will use their logo because that's what's already trusted is their logo. But especially for agents, use your photo. And I know you guys know this is important. It's on your business cards. It's on your Active Rain, which, by golly, if you're not on Active Rain, go get on Active Rain. So there's one tip. Use your photo. And you can, you can mix it up if you have different social networking sites. You can use a different photo as long as, it's easily recognizable as you. don't want to confuse too much there. Be active, okay? What I mean by that is engage your audience. Offer them something worth reading. Offer a nice mix of business tweets or Facebook posts and non-business, okay? Kind of the same way you're doing with your blogging, okay? If your users have something to say to you, take time to reply to them, okay? You may not be able to get to every single one of them, but if you show that you're engaging your audience and you interact with them, they're much more likely to keep coming back and see what you have to say and have a conversation with you, okay? So reply to those useful tweets and everything. If you see somebody else who wrote something worthy, share that, okay? Do a retweet or share it or like it, okay? The reason being is they're going to take notice of that, and then they're going to look at your stuff more often, okay? Like with most anything else you want to put on the web, offer a call to action, okay? Tell the users what you want them to do. Don't hesitate to ask people to follow you on Twitter. Don't hesitate to ask people to like you on Facebook. And there's a lot of ways you can do that, okay? You can do that simply by, well, if you look right below, add social media buttons, okay? You're basically asking those people to like you and to follow you on Twitter, okay? But you can blatantly ask them in a blog post, hey, check out my listing on or my link on Facebook. Go follow me and like my page and get all kinds of great information. So if you have in your email signature, add a signature line that has your Twitter and your Facebook link to them. Things like that. Okay, so add social media buttons, make it easier for a user to follow you, and again, be consistent. Have you ever visited a Facebook page? This is an example that I think I wrote on the blog. You ever visit a Facebook page and you go there and there's not much going on, and you realize that the user actually hasn't even posted in 6 to 8 months or whatever? Well, I know I'm not going to go back to that page. There's nothing going on. And even if there was something going on, it's still scarce and it's not very, it's like, oh, this is not very good info. Why would I come back here? So be consistent. It's just like your blog. Take 20 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the morning, sit down at your desk with your cup of coffee and go through some of your social media. Okay, it really doesn't take that much time once you get into it. Now, here's a trick. As you sit down to start your social media, set your timer for 30 minutes because I know as well as anybody else, I can sit down and think I'm going to spend 30 minutes on it, and an hour or 2 hours has eventually gone by because you can get wrapped up in your social media. So, set a timer, just make sure you have that self-control to say, okay, enough is enough. Okay, so there's some tips. I just want to stress again real quick. Content is even more important than ever. Get blogging. Okay, be consistent. I gave you some good tips on blogging. Get active in social media. Okay, I know some of you maybe are active in Facebook but not Twitter, or Twitter but not Facebook, or LinkedIn. Just get active in all three or all four. I mean, the more you can get active in, especially of those four big guys, do it. Get things like, Facebook business pages. Those are important to get. Not just your personal Facebook. I would use that for personal and then get an actual Facebook business page and, get that thing going for you. It's going to really pay off, okay? So I'm going to turn it back over to Mark for a minute.
Okay, in just a second, we'll go through some of the questions that we have here, and feel free to write in on your GoToWebinar question screen whatever questions you have right now. The link that you see at the top of the page, I'll be sending out to those who participated in today's call, so you can either write it down now or I'll be sending it to you. And that's a more foundational webinar. Our blog is at the second link, blog.realprosystems.com, and then of course there's some links to social media down below. I want to ask Dennis one question that I know comes up for agents who are very busy. You've got lots of things to do with listings and marketing and all the rest of it, and this can perhaps sound like one other thing added onto your plate. The last point he made was be consistent. Dennis, if somebody is consistent, even though they might be blogging with fairly short posts, and maybe they're consistent once or twice a week, something like that. And they know that there are other agents who seem to be doing this seemingly for hours a day. Is it more important to be that consistent sort of, I guess, tortoise, if you will, or is the volume, where do volume and consistency battle each other, or do they?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. If you're talking about volume and you're just, again, you're just posting for the sake of volume, stop. You want to have quality posts, okay? When it comes to consistency, just think of it in terms of if you go to somebody's Facebook page and you see that they're posting once a week, does that feel good to you? Or if they're posting twice a week, does that feel good to you? I personally like to say, if you can post 2 or 3 times a week, let's say you just social media wise, you're probably doing okay. If you can post a blog at a minimum once a week, you're doing okay. But if you can get into a habit of blogging twice a week, do it. Blog on Tuesday and Thursday, or whatever the case is. The idea is, just get it going and post blog-worthy stuff. Post quality stuff. Don't just post random stuff just for the sake of posting.
Now, RealPro offers a set of SEO services that Dennis is in charge of, and the number's up there on the screen. You can contact us. One of the questions that has come in toward the end here was from an agent who says, he's over his head just with listings, negotiatings, closing, and in terms of personal capacity to execute everything that we've shown here, and there's even more out there that we could talk about. Are there people that will help do this for me?
Well, yeah, there are a ton of services out there. I mean, as Mark mentioned, we have some SEO services here. Our SEO services actually include some blogging, and we just kind of give you that to help kickstart your blogging and get you going. I always encourage even our clients to blog on their own as well. But you can get people to manage your social media for you. Another thing is if somebody has a ton of listings and closings and everything, great, good for you. You're doing something out there good. But if you look at this as part of your marketing, and you've got to look at your business and include marketing into it, that's what SEO is. That's what social media and blogging, your pay-per-click, that's part of your marketing. And again, if you were just to take an hour, a couple days a week, use a half hour for a blog post, use the other half hour to interact with social media. I mean, an hour, a couple times a week, I think we can all fit that in somewhere. Even if we had, okay, I'm going to have lunch in the office today while I do this. Just try to fit it in there if you can, because it is important.
Okay, let me check through some of the questions here. Just a moment.
Well, let's see what is it.
No follows and do follow in terms of link juice.
Yeah, we cover some no follows. Somebody asked about no follow links in one of the questions. We do cover that a little bit more in depth in our SEO webinar, but I'll just kind of gloss over it real quick. Basically, what it is on the hyperlinks, you can add a tag that says no follow. Now, that's telling the search engine basically that you don't want to vouch for a site, a link going to another site, okay? And what they do is they actually won't pass the Google juice on away from your site to their site, okay? Now, one thing to keep in mind is if every single tag or external site was no followed, that doesn't look natural. Okay, too many people get caught up on the no follow and do follow. One thing that I like to do is if you legitimately don't know really what's going on this other site, maybe you have ads on your site that point away, that's a good place to put no follow. okay? But don't get caught up in it so much that you go through your website and start putting no follow tags on all of your links, because that's not natural.
Thanks, Dennis. Let's look through some of the questions here.
Yeah. Type. We have a lot of questions. Keep typing them in. If we can't get to them, we'll try to get to them after, by email or something. But keep typing them in. There's a lot of good ones coming in.
The caller here has asked about what is Active Rain and how can you take advantage of it. Why don't you say a few words about that?
Active Rain is it's a great. First of all, it's a great networking site for agents. Okay, there's a ton of agents on Active Rain that they can share ideas and everything. You can have, you can have a blog, an Active Rain blog, a profile. It's actually it's got a lot of clout. Okay, it's got a lot of I'll just say Google likes Active Rain. So if you can blog on Active Rain and you can get your blog listed in the engines. Let's say you're blogging. Let's say you're blogging about the Myrtle Beach condos for sale. What you may want to do is write out a nice long blog post on Active Rain, okay, and then on your web page's blog, your website's blog post, you could write sort of a snippet, kind of an introduction to your other Active Rain blog, and then link over to your Active Rain blog, or vice versa. Okay, and so Google loves Active Rain. They love their blog posts. You can get some good quality Google links out of there. So use that to your advantage to link back and forth. Okay, but that's what Active Rain is. So if you just go to activerain.com, check it out. It's really neat.
Thanks, Dennis. Scan through the questions here. There's a question here. Can you expand a little bit more on keyword research and how we can do that?
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's a really good question. Actually, one that I think, let me back up here, as long as you guys are all still looking at the screen. If you go back and start your keyword research, now you can see the image here. If you just go to Google and type in Google keyword tool, you're going to come up with this Google AdWords keyword tool. Okay, you don't have to be using Google AdWords to have access to this. It's a free tool. If you just type in a search phrase up in the top box there, okay, and follow the guidelines there that they're asking of you, it'll give you some suggested ideas, and it'll show you some approximated search volumes. Okay, it'll tell you how competitive, is it very competitive, not very competitive, search phrases are. Now, when you look at the numbers, when they start showing you the search volume, don't take that as 100% truth. Okay, Google even tells you this is an approximation. They don't want to give you their hard and fast numbers. Okay, for obvious reasons, but they're giving you an approximation. Just use those numbers as a guideline. Okay, but they do give you some good ideas of search phrases that maybe you didn't think of. Okay. Another thing I want to say about keywords, all of the agents in the industry, maybe you've got a specific lingo for various things out there, real estate wise. But keep in mind, you're not marketing to other agents. You're marketing to everyday users that maybe don't know that agent lingo. Okay, so think of how somebody out on the street is going to come to the engine and look for different things on your site. Okay, some of the really good search phrases, let's say homes for sale in Crestwell, Oregon. Okay, so maybe you want to write a page talking about homes for sale in Crestwell, Oregon. Well, you may also want to include a separate page that talks about Crestwell real estate. Okay, don't be afraid that if you have one page about Crestwell, Oregon, don't be afraid to add another page. You can come up with something to write about. Maybe one page talks about Crestwell, Oregon, more of the community, and offers links to other Crestwell, Oregon listings. And maybe another one just has 2 or 3 paragraphs. Here's a little trick I like to do. We just create 2 or 3 paragraphs of Crestwell, Oregon talking about it, and then we have a whole listing of IDX broker links at the bottom. Not links, but actual listings. We put them out. So one of them is actually like a community page, and the other one is more of a listing page. Okay, and we can target separate search phrases there. Okay, instead of trying to cram every search phrase into one page, because you don't want to dilute the importance of that one page.
Now, Jerry's got a question here. We actually used one of his screenshots earlier in the presentation, but he asked, what are your thoughts on having other realtors that are regularly our blog posters on each other's sites request for you to post a short article with a few links to their site, and they do the same? Is there any value or any problems? It appears that this might be a new trend.
Yeah, Jerry, that's a good question, and there is some value there. Now, obviously you want to do it with somebody who you probably know or trustworthy. Obviously, I would not do it for somebody in my local area. You don't want to steer the traffic away from you to them. But if I'm here in Cresswell, Oregon, or Eugene, Oregon, and I have Cindy DeCiani, who was over in the Kansas City area, if I have her be a guest blogger for maybe an article of mine, and she links back to hers, that's fine. That's great. And that gives her some good cross-linking. Okay. Not only did I get her to guest blog, so, I don't have to write a blog that day. She did it for me, but it gives her some good link back to her. Now, if I went over to her site and did the same thing, I wrote a nice article over there and then cross-linked back to my site, that would be good too. Okay, see, so we're basically getting ourselves some good cross-linking. Don't think that just because somebody writes for you that you have to go write for them, or that if you write for them, they have to come write for you. Because one thing that you don't want to do is have every single one of your backlinks be reciprocal. You don't want them to be only back and forth links. One-way links are going to be far better. So hopefully that makes sense. When we're talking about linking back and forth, and we talk about this much, much more in the SEO webinar instead of just our tips here. Use search phrases in your link text. So, if I'm writing a blog post, for wherever, I can guest blog on all kinds of sites out there. Don't just say, hey, check out my blog here. Make sure you write something that your search link says, hey, check out my Cresswell, Oregon real estate blog. Okay, and then Cresswell, Oregon real estate would be your hyperlink text. Okay, so it's important that you use those search phrases in that text as well. Don't use the same search phrase on every single post back to your site. Mix it up a little bit because, again, it's not natural to use the same hyperlink text across the entire internet.
As we wind down here, we have just a few final questions. Eric asks a good one, and this comes up pretty frequently. The question is, how does embedding video help with SEO? Now, a lot of our clients know that last year we came out with a video management and video mail product that has been great for a lot of our clients. It allows you to send somebody a video via email, and that video actually plays inside your website. So instead of going to YouTube and apparently playing there, it actually plays inside your website. But overall, Dennis, what's the value of embedding video for SEO?
Well, there's a few ways to look at the value of video. Okay, the video itself, get yourself a YouTube channel. Okay, post your videos in YouTube. Take just like most everything else, take notice of what you title the video. Take notice of the little description that you write in the video. And there's actual tags in there as well that you can kind of tag the video. Don't overdo it with your tags. Okay, put 4 or 5, 6 good tags in there. Don't put 20 tags. Okay, and what'll happen is if I have a video, and my video is about a home for sale in Cresswell, Oregon. Well, if somebody types in homes for sale in Cresswell, Oregon, my video has a chance to sneak up in there in the rankings. So I don't actually need a web page, but my video could get up in there. Or if I do have a web page that ranks up in there, well, now I've got a web page and the video. Okay, so that's one way to look at it. Okay, another way to look at it is by having video on your page. The user can click that video, and if that video is a minute or two long, well, now you've kept them on your website a minute or two longer. Okay, the engines take notice of how long users are on the sites. Where do they go? Do they come to the web page and then leave? That's not very good. Do they come to the web page and then go to another page of your site? Are they actually doing something, interacting? That's good. So there's a couple things in there going with video that really help your SEO, even though it may not help directly to that one page particular as much, but overall it'll help your SEO efforts.
And I'd refer you to our sales folks to talk about the cost of our particular video mail and video management program. It's very affordable for many agents. We designed it to hit an attractive price point. Let's end with a couple of questions that really do affect everybody. And these are, I'll sort of lump two of these together. One question is it bad to copy content from another site into your blog, even if it's helpful content? And related to that would be, is it problematic or bad in any way to copy RPS blogs that you might have written for your RealPro blog to Active Rain? So content coming from another site, how should you handle it? And what about copying content from your RPS blog to Active Rain or some other place?
Well, when it comes to duplicate content, okay, if you copy if you have the same exact copy on two different pages, the engines, they may not notice right away, but once they notice that there's exact same copy on two different pages, they're going to try to figure out which one of those came first, which one of those is the original. And they may get it wrong, and it may not be yours, okay? Once they figure that out, they're going to drop one of those pages, not from the index. Okay, the index is just basically where the search engines keep all the pages, but they're going to drop it from the search engine. Okay, so only one of those listings will show up. Okay, so what I do is, instead of just copying completely, I may copy the first paragraph or two, almost like a teaser, and then say, to read this article in full, visit my blog over here on Active Rain, or visit my blog over here on mysite.com, whatever your site is. Okay, so kind of give it a teaser. One, if you give it enough, if it's a good enough article, people really want to read it, they're going to go read that. But you're giving yourself some cross-linking. You're giving yourself some traffic to your website. Once they get on that blog on your website, again, give them something to do down here. Hey, check out my listings over here. Or, hey, you're interested in foreclosures because I blogged about foreclosures? Check out my information about foreclosures. What are foreclosures? What are foreclosures from a buyer standpoint? How about from a seller standpoint? What are the pluses? What are the negatives? Give them some information. But yeah, don't copy, even if it's Active Rain or not. I wouldn't copy. And like I said, they may not catch on right away. But once they do, one of those is going to be dropped. You don't necessarily get penalized to where they say, well, boy, this is the same content, we're going to penalize it. But they will start dropping some of those pages out of the search engines.
Well, we reached about an hour here, so we want to wrap up. There are a few questions we don't quite have time to get to. I'm going to go through these and put together a little bit of a briefing sheet for you in the response that you'll get hopefully later today or tomorrow. Appreciate all of you being here. Thank you for the great questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everything. One final matter is the follow-on to webinars in this series. We don't exactly have the dates yet. Those will be chosen and published soon, and those will be on our training site at realprosystems.com/training. If you're interested in SEO services from RealPro itself, which Dennis heads, just call us at our company number and talk to us about that. And all of the rest of our regular training webinars are at realprosystems.com/training. And let's see, scroll up just a little bit. We've got just time to double check here. Okay, I think we've covered the main questions. So thank you again for being here. All the best to you in your sales. We appreciate your time and look forward to the next 2 sessions on our training site.